So I'm here with Lennart Lopin at the Mars Society Convention 2019. I wanted to chat with him a little bit about the Marscoin project. So Lennart, you came to our conference in 2014 and you announced the Marscoin project. It's 5 years now.
Yeah,
how's it been going?
Long time, yeah. So it was actually pretty crazy because 2013, I think, was the first time that I thought about Marscoin. If you remember the early days of Bitcoin, first it was just Bitcoin. Then I think in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, Litecoin took off as a copy of Bitcoin, and there was a lot of pushback actually because everybody thought like, well, what is the limit on Bitcoin if anybody can just make more copies? And Warren Buffett is quoted as having said, well, Bitcoin, this thing is not going to go anywhere because it's like a checkbook. You can just make more of them. It doesn't really mean anything. There should be no value in it. But anyway, this is 2019, so Bitcoin is at 8,000 right now, and it's a long story. But to cut to the chase, for me the point was I saw all of these coins popping up. And I had good discussion with a couple of my space enthusiastic friends. And I was like, I don't want the name Marscoin to end up being like this scammy, no-nonsensical coin, because I was thinking, well, most of these knockoffs of Bitcoin are not really doing anything else. They're just pump and dump schemes. Bitcoin fulfills this amazing function as an alternative monetary system. And I thought like, definitely on Mars, they're not going to print paper money. They're definitely not going to use gold coins to transact business. And this blockchain revolution, creating an immutable ledger, allows us to actually have a financial system. So if anything on Mars, they're definitely going to run a blockchain. To me, that was like a no-brainer. Sometime in the future. But as I saw people kind of creating these nonsensical thematic coins, I was like, no, it would be really worthwhile to grab the name, register the name, and think about the implications of a blockchain on Mars instead, right? So that's how it started. 2013, I started drafting kind of this white paper idea, just kind of wrote from my heart the idea. And very, very quickly, actually, the discussion came about, well, the thing is this, interesting incentive structures that cryptocurrencies create. Like I see this with Bitcoin too. For instance, with Bitcoin as a big incentive, the cheaper you can create power, the more energy you can spend, and the energy can be turned into monetary profits. It's almost like you're parking energy in money, which you can later then take out, right?
Right.
And I thought, well, the interesting incentive with a blockchain on Mars is you could actually allow anybody on the planet to partake in this currency that then gets implemented, just moved on a USB stick to Mars. And you can access a global group of people partaking in it, but by using it in a daily life, the cryptocurrency would raise in purchasing power, just like Bitcoin. The more people use it, the higher the value. There's no magical reason why Bitcoin goes up. It's just because more people are using it, and there's only so much limited in supply.
It's a scarce resource.
A scarce resource. So a scarce resource like a Marscoin, I thought, could actually be a test for a planetary fundraiser, and making it possible to pull off the resources to enable the colony that then becomes the financial driver for itself. So it's a beautiful bootstrapping process of gigantic projects. And the Marscoin, the Mars Society's convention in 2014 invited me to talk particularly on that topic. And I dug a little bit deeper into colonization of North America, and what I found was actually astounding, because a lot of the early colonies in North and South America, they were done in a very similar fashion, where actually our concept of shares comes from the ships where people bought shares in to kind of split the risk, right?
Yeah, they bought shares in the colony itself,
correct,
right? So
correct.
when they landed in America, they would start farming and building houses, and they were sort of shared ownership of the colony.
And the investor basically said, like, look, this is super risky. I can't obviously buy a whole ship and fund people going there, even if they're going to work for me and build a plantation and ship stuff back. This is going to take time. It's not going to work for me. But what if I buy a little part of this endeavor, and now I can trade it? I have a receipt. I can trade it without a tokenization, if you will, in the old days. I can take that, and you know what? I can wait for my plantation results to come back to me, or I can just go after a year or two and trade this with other people
sell
in
the share
and
to someone else.
So I mean, here in 2019, we're now in the it's funny, the Bitcoin cryptocurrency innovation, the people involved is running at an amazing speed. Like the innovation, it's breathtaking, right? So a lot of people outside don't see it, but if you kind of tap into CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, all the news that are focused on the industry, it's amazing how it even impacts traditional finance. And but the funny thing is, we're kind of building a system that it's almost like this history likes to rhyme thing, where we're rediscovering means and methods using modern technology and modern communication systems that are extremely empowering on a 10x or something level compared to the old technology. So
it's almost like a spiral development model if you think of technology as a whole.
Correct.
And as time goes on.
And it's, to me, it's so logical almost that this process of the Industrial Revolution, and where we are now with the information technology revolution, that we're kind of unlocking potential of the citizens of the globe, if you will, and are giving them a leverage, just like a tool almost, that becomes more and more powerful and more accessible on an individual level. And it just keeps going. So I think the colonization of the solar system is a completely necessary and logical next step, and I see these blockchain and funding techniques to be a no-brainer, that people can partake in that.
What I really like about Marscoin is the fact that it is a blockchain, and when I think about what a blockchain would be used for with a Mars colony, you could track the resources that were created on Mars and consumed by colonists through the blockchain, through the public ledger, so that you have full transparency.
Absolutely. So the interesting aspect, like we've in the last couple of years, the idea of permissioned ledgers, where you have an IBM creating like a hyperledger, and Walmart is using it to track, their lettuce, so they know, for instance, oh wow, there's an E. coli, whatever, problem with a particular set. Right now, if you remember, not too long ago in Florida, at least a few months ago, they had to empty out the entire shelves. All the lettuce was gone for a couple of days because they didn't know. They didn't know this was public. So they didn't know where it came from, and so rather risking having.
Because there was like an E. coli outbreak with the romaine lettuce coming out of a specific place.
So we walk into the store and it's all gone.
All the lettuce is gone.
It's a resource destruction is unnecessary. It basically tells you that there's an information deficit. They couldn't.
If they had a blockchain tracking all those heads of lettuce, then you'd know exactly where they were farmed at, and you'd know which one was at risk and which one wasn't. But they'd throw them all out.
So an argument, of course, very often from the cryptocurrency space is that a permissioned database is a distributed database that's in control over by a couple of public, private entities, right? And so there's still a potential for abuse, and it's not the same as a decentralized blockchain, which is what Marscoin would be, right? Anyway, either way, it would have been great, and we haven't seen this, interestingly enough, in the last 20 years. Walmart or Citibank, they could have created distributed databases where all the vendors partake in. Nobody ever conceived of a system. It was all internally, it was all kind of siloed, and they didn't really want to share this data with competitors. So the blockchains kind of break this mold. Bitcoin, of course, on a scale where it's completely public, completely decentralized, and an open network. And then kind of, I guess, the old school, the IBMs of the world didn't want to, kind of be behind, and Microsoft too, I think they created their blockchain methods for private businesses to kind of take this on a smaller scale, on a more private scale, but it's still a hash-based distributed database where data can be shared and vendors can kind of contribute information even though they're outside the system, and so everybody can check everybody, but you end up with a system where you have data points that are all linked with each other that cannot be easily manipulated, and there's a perfect track record from a production standpoint all the way into the end consumer. And so with Marscoin, coming back to our project, what we would love to do, we're not there yet, is to add a smart contract language on top of our blockchain, in particular Marscoin, because like you said, we see that on Mars, once Marscoin gets, and it all takes just a USB stick, right, and a miner to get started on Mars. But once the chain is active there, we'd love to have already prepared for that here and now, if you will, a working smart contract system to track resources, to track contracts, allow people to do title registrations on Mars would be that would be one of the amazing things that people could do and track and then trade. That's the other thing. We had a lot of discussions here in last few days about economic resources on Mars. How can we actually monetize it? How can we allow economic endeavors to start and kind of create the necessary incentives for people to actually want to go to Mars and then make money? And I think that's another point. If you can register very clearly and transparently real estate, for instance, not just outer space treaty and all of that, but a blockchain would allow you very, very clearly who owns what, when was it created, how can I track it, and I can trade and sell it to other people. It's very interesting. And then everybody that had a copy of the Marscoin blockchain would have all that information available, and it's all verified with each other. Correct.
So it's a decentralized public ledger.
Absolutely. I think there's certain things that we just want to be in the public hand, but not in the public hand like we have currently in the US, where we have certain agencies and there's people in there, they have never been voted into office.
Right. And they're making the decisions.
And they're making the decisions for all of us. So the beautiful thing about public blockchains is that the code is maintained by everybody. The nodes can be spun up by everybody in the community, and it becomes this public good, almost like water or air.
And it's the open source model of software development, but expanded out to be every currency and all these other things.
Yes, it's beautiful. One thing I wanted to add is there's an amazing article. Maybe we can add that or something to the discussion.
Sure.
By I forgot his name now. Two gentlemen actually, and they were talking about Clark Moody and another gentleman, very early guys in the crypto space, and they talk about the economic incentives of mining on Mars versus mining on Earth. And they're making this final statement, which I found extremely interesting. They're saying space exploration at some point might be driven only by the desire to find a new place to start up a blockchain, because the early stakeholders will be the ones that profit most for it. There's a certain network effect and stickiness of a place that already has a system that's running, right? And there might be a reason to say, like, we're going to go to Alpha Centauri because if we spin up our chain there and start mining, everybody else who comes later kind of finds an existing system that's running. And so you'll add a direct economic incentive to the push out to other worlds.
That's a very cool concept. Let's bring it back though to Marscoin. There's been a few things that you've been able to do this year. And so where is it at today, and where do you hope to go the next year?
So Marscoin went through a lot of problems, just like through the evolution, if you will, of all of the coins in the crypto space. We're still a very early coin, so we have, like you said, 5 years, which is pretty cool. We were on some of the earliest exchanges that are now big, like Bittrex, Poloniex. There were some of the exchanges, some of them don't exist anymore. That Marscoin was
Cryptopia,
Cryptopia is gone, and MinPal is gone. Nobody even knows about that. A lot of history that Marscoin was there, and the beautiful thing is the coin existed and persisted throughout those challenges. But currently we're focused on, we released a new version, Marscoin Client 1.5. It's still a FAT client, it's still a desktop client. We're hoping to add a mobile wallet this year. We had an Android one, an older one that needs to be updated, but we're hoping to kind of create a light client for mobile devices this year. Also exchanges, we're always looking for exchanges. There's one that was closed most recently,
Nova Exchange,
So that's a tricky thing. I'd love to actually see a space dedicated exchange. I'd love to find a home for projects that are in the space funding arena, and that their tokens and their models get their own exchange globally, and then and have the regulators come in and make it really a global accessible platform for these projects. It would be really nice to find a way to do that.
Awesome. And what could folks do to help the project?
So we need help in any regard. So we would need definitely more software engineers. That would be amazing. People maybe who have worked with blockchains in the past, but not necessarily, because a lot of these clients, so we have, for instance, we're one of the few actually coins that has a beautiful online wallet that has worked and has never been hacked since the very beginning. That's cool, and we would love to have more just kind of increase the visibility and the different the tool chain, if you will, around the blockchain. So anybody who ever worked on wallets and exchange technology and maybe even smart contracts, smart contract blockchain code, we would love to invite those engineers. But then also the social outreach. There's a lot of concepts and ideas that I think it's really worthwhile thinking about them now and looking at the implications of them and communicating those.
Yeah. So bloggers, social media experts,
absolutely.
Stuff like that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time today.
Well, I appreciate it very
Absolutely.
much. Thank you so much.
All right.